Dawn breaks through the window of a Roman villa. A man opens his eyes to another day he didn't earn, another collection of hours he cannot keep, another chance to practice what he believes about the borrowed nature of existence. Before his feet touch the floor, before servants bring water for washing, before the business of empire demands attention, Seneca asks himself the same question that has shaped his morning routine for decades. What if today is the last day this particular version of me gets to exist? This wasn't morbid thinking. It wasn't pessimism disguised as philosophy. Seneca had discovered that beginning each day with this question changed everything about how he moved through time. Most people wake up assuming they own the next 16 hours, that time belongs to them like property in their possession. But Seneca understood something different. Time is always on loan, never purchased, never guaranteed beyond this exact moment. The question worked because it forced him to see his day not as an endless resource to be managed or optimized, but as borrowed capital that could be recalled without notice. When you truly absorb that your time is borrowed, you stop wasting it on resentments about yesterday. When you recognize that your energy is on loan, you quit spending it on people who drain without reciprocating. When you accept that your attention is borrowed, you become selective about where you direct it. Modern people often approach their days like they're entitled to them. They wake up annoyed that they have to work, frustrated that they have responsibilities, bitter that life requires effort. Seneca's morning question eliminated that entitlement by reminding him that receiving another day was a gift, not a guarantee. He wasn't owed this time. He was being trusted with it. The first way this question changed Seneca's relationship with time was by dissolving his resistance to aging. Instead of fighting the fact that his body was changing, that his energy wasn't what it used to be, that certain pleasures were becoming less accessible, he began each day grateful that this older version of himself got to experience anything at all. Aging became evidence of time's generosity rather than time's cruelty. He noticed that younger people often lived like they had infinite time to figure things out, to repair relationships, to pursue what mattered. But when you start each day asking, what if this particular version of you only gets today, you stop postponing conversations that need to happen. You quit waiting for permission to write what you want to write. You cease delaying expressions of love until you feel more ready to give them. The second transformation this question produced was Seneca's approach to daily problems. When something frustrated him, a delayed letter, a business setback, a friend's betrayal, he could place it against the backdrop of borrowed time. Was this frustration worth spending his limited allocation of attention? Was this anger how he wanted to invest his finite emotional energy? The question didn't eliminate problems, but it provided immediate perspective about their actual weight. Seneca discovered that most of the things that consumed people's mental energy were problems that would resolve themselves if given time, or problems so large that worry couldn't affect them anyway. But when time feels infinite, people will spend weeks rehearsing grievances, replaying conflicts, and imagining worst-case scenarios. When time feels borrowed, you become protective of where your mind goes. That every hour spent in resentment is an hour that can't be spent on something that actually builds your life. The third shift this practice created was in how Seneca related to other people. When you wake up knowing your time is borrowed, you stop taking other people's time for granted too. You quit making conversation that goes nowhere because you realize that both of your attention spans are limited resources. You become more direct in communication because borrowed time doesn't allow for endless circling around what needs to be said. But this directness wasn't cold or harsh. It was actually more loving. When you know time is borrowed, you tell people what they mean to you, instead of assuming you'll have years to demonstrate it. You express appreciation while the person is still here to receive it. You offer help when it's needed, rather than waiting for a more convenient moment. Seneca also used this question to curate his commitments more carefully. When opportunities arose, social invitations, business ventures, intellectual projects, he could evaluate them against the reality of borrowed time. Would this use of time align with who he was trying to become? Would this activity still matter if it was the last thing this version of himself got to do? The question became a filter that eliminated everything that was merely convenient and preserved only what was essential. The fourth way this practice changed Seneca was by transforming his relationship with mistakes and regrets. When you believe time is infinite, the stakes feel like permanent stains on your record. But when you recognize that time is borrowed, the stakes become information about how to use the remaining time more wisely. The question shifted his focus from cataloging past errors to learning from them. Quickly and moving forward, he stopped spending borrowed time punishing himself for decisions that couldn't be unchanged. Instead, he used his limited mental energy to make different choices going forward. This wasn't about denying responsibility or avoiding consequences. It was about refusing to compound past mistakes with ongoing self-punishment. The fifth transformation this question produced was Seneca's approach to daily pleasures and comforts. Instead of taking them for granted or feeling guilty for enjoying them, he experienced them with the appreciation that comes from knowing their temporary gifts. Food tasted better when he remembered it was prepared with borrowed time. Conversations felt more precious when he recognized that both participants were using their finite allocation of attention to connect. This awareness didn't make him desperate or frantic about squeezing pleasure from every moment. Instead, it created a quiet gratitude that enhanced whatever he was experiencing. Borrowed time made ordinary moments feel more significant because he knew they couldn't be repeated exactly. The question also changed how Seneca prepared for sleep each evening. Instead of collapsing exhausted or lying awake worrying about tomorrow, he could review the day with the satisfaction of someone who had used borrowed time intentionally. Had he spent his allocation of attention on what mattered? Had he used his energy in ways that aligned with his values? Had he treated the time as the gift it was? This evening review wasn't about perfectionism or harsh self-criticism. It was about learning to be a better steward of borrowed time. Just as someone trusted with another person's money would track how it was spent, Seneca tracked how he used the time he'd been given. Modern life often feels like a race against time, a desperate attempt to accomplish everything before time runs out. But Seneca's morning question revealed a different approach. Instead of racing against time, you could learn to dance with it. Instead of trying to own time, you could learn to honor it. Instead of fearing time's passage, you could learn to appreciate time's gifts. The question worked because it was asked every morning, not just during crises or major life transitions. Daily repetition trained Seneca's mind to see time accurately, as borrowed, limited, and precious, rather than falling into the illusion that time was his possession to waste or hoard. When you begin each day asking, what if today is the last day this particular version of me gets to exist? Everything becomes more vivid. Colors seem deeper because you're not sure you'll see them again. Conversations become more meaningful because you recognize they're happening with finite beings in a temporary moment. Even difficult experiences gain significance because you understand they're part of the limited story you get to live. Seneca's question doesn't promise to eliminate aging, prevent loss, or stop time's passage. It simply reveals that time was always borrowed, that every day was always a gift, and that living with this awareness transforms ordinary time into something approaching the sacred. If this moved you, comment "The Citadel holds" below. It is our sign that you carry the philosophy with you.